in the Clubhouse with Chris Hill and at Seniormash. And it is
I think we're recording.
week number 2.
Chris,
over to you guys.
Welcome. It's the two of us again in the Clubhouse. And looking forward to 20 minutes of rugby conversation with you.
As you said last week, Mark, it's my favourite Clubhouse. We've been to many between us. I can imagine that, this is slowly becoming my favourite Clubhouse after just 2 episodes, Mark. So we're certainly making the right impression.
So my weekend was dominated by National League Rugby. And I've got very excited about Sedge Media's ability to live stream. And such an amazing achievement by Vinnie Morley down at Plymouth to single-handedly commentate, do the filming, avoid the crowd's heads. But wow, what a statement for National League Rugby.
I think we said it on the last week, Mark, that what Vinnie's doing in the Sedge Media team's brilliant in itself, and it's quite the effort to use the camera, put the graphics up, do the commentary, keep up with the game. But when you transfer that to going down to Plymouth, which is a long, long way from Sedgley Park, as we know, on his own, operate the camera and commenting on the game in between, possibly some of the most vocal supporters in the league in terms of how passionate they are in Plymouth Albion. It's a really tricky challenge Vinny had on his plate last week. But, me and you were watching it, weren't we, Mark? And it was a brilliant coverage from Vinny. He was keeping everyone up to date with what was going on and what bonus points mean for Sedge, and giving us some kind of letting us into what the crowd were thinking a little bit as well when Sedge came back into it. So, no, absolutely full credit for Vinny. And I know he got a tweet, I think, off a couple of Plymouth Albion fans who were watching it as well, who might not have been at the game. So it shows the work he's putting in, the miles he's putting as well, are certainly making a positive impact.
Well, I think I read that there were nearly 1,500 people at the game.
Yeah.
That's the sort of crowd that I guess when you set the objectives for National League Rugby Review Show, getting crowds like that into clubs was one of your objectives, wasn't it?
Plymouth have kind of led the way for a while. I don't know if you've ever taken that long voyage, Mark. I'm going to call it a voyage to Plymouth, but it is one of the clubs that do get regularly over 1,000 people. And, National League crowds, sometimes, you're really chuffed to see 750, 800. It's really good. But Plymouth seem to always get over 1,000. I think Havant, who are one of the new clubs in National 2, they seem to get over 1,000 as well. I think they had 1,000 at the weekend. But you're right, Mark. It is one of the most passionate supporter bases in the country. Plymouth aren't a small club. And so, it's, again, going back to what we said there, for Vinny to get in amongst it, I think it's probably the right term, is, full credit to him. But, in terms of seeing those crowd numbers, extremely encouraging, and especially when it wasn't a Six Nations weekend as well.
And I thought one of my favourite teams, as you know, Sedgley Park Tigers, actually stuck in the fight remarkably well, because they had the stuffing kicked out of them in the sort of second quarter of the game by a very powerful Plymouth Albion pack, and with some very slick moves by the Albion backs.
Yeah, I was on Twitter, and I think you were sort of commenting yourself on the TRU Twitter, Talking Rugby Union Twitter, Mark, and it was kind of, it looked like it started okay for Sedge, and it was like bang, it was like 4 tries almost instantly, and I thought I could be in for a bit of a long afternoon. But you're right, they kind of stuck into that. I know they kind of traded tries at the start of the second half, Plymouth and Sedge, but Sedge really took the game to Plymouth, and I think Plymouth might have had 2 yellow cards as well. And I know Scott was a little bit sort of possibly disappointed at the end to come away with 2 losing bonus points, and that just shows the performance Sedge put in the second half of the season, but in the second half of that game. But as we are in the second half of the season, it's going to be crucial to pick up points wherever you can, especially away from home in National 1. And considering some of the sides below Sedge didn't pick up a single point, they've got to be really pleased on that long bus journey back from Brickfields up to North Manchester.
Yeah, and the other one, talking of journeys, I saw on Twitter that Rams struggled to get to Birmingham Mosley, and when they got there, that was probably the surprise result of the weekend for me, was Birmingham 19, Rams 0.
Yeah, I don't think they had the most ideal prep Rams in terms of travel disruption. I think they had a few late team changes as well, Mark. But
Right, didn't see
Seb,
that.
but Seb, the director of rugby, you know, we've worked with him on Talking Rugby Union as part of National League Rugby. He's a fantastic guy, and he says it how it is, and he doesn't hide behind excuses. So there was none of that in Rams media coverage at all. That we were delayed, or the weather wasn't great, or the pitch had a bit of standing water on it, and the ground staff. None of that from Rams. They basically held their hands up and said, "Look, we weren't clinical enough." Birmingham Mosley, by all accounts, Mark, defended absolutely superbly. And when they got into the red zone, into the 22, that they took the chances. And, you know, it was one of those days that it was a collective performance, really, from Birmingham Mosley, topped off by one of their, a National League Rugby it's not stalwart, I'd say he's a regular face in Aquil Smith, who plays for Birmingham Mosley, lightning quick winger, but was in the centres on Saturday. Scored a brilliant try on his 100th appearance, which kind of won the game effectively for Birmingham Mosley. But yeah, it was another standout result, really. Probably, as you say, Mark, the shock of the weekend, but that was kind of the narrative in the Midlands around that one.
Yeah, and I mean, Richmond have kept up their winning streak to push for promotion, I guess. I expected them to win, but the result was a little narrower than I expected against Leicester Lions.
Yeah, they seem to kind of get the job done in the first half, Mark. I think you're absolutely right there. And then second half, Leicester, continue to battle. They're in a bit of a sticky situation towards the bottom of National 1 at the moment. Leicester Lions struggling to pick up points as well at this crucial time of the season. But from a Richmond perspective, I think it's almost a case of let's get the job done now in whatever means possible, and let's see where it takes us, because they had a couple of slip-ups either side of Christmas against Roslyn Park at home, which is a game that speaks for itself, just down the road from each other, local derby, Christmas festive fixture. But then we went up to Sale FC at the start of February and lost. So people were thinking, well, has it kind of rocked the boat a little bit? I know they've had injuries, and Rob Powell, the head coach, has had to shuffle a few things around, some new faces starting to click, but I think that possibly suggests why it wasn't as a free scoring game from a Richmond perspective, Mark. I think it's job done. This team's continuing to click, but more importantly, they got the win under the belt, which leaves them top going into the final 2 months of the season.
Yeah. So any other National League fixtures capture your imagination over the weekend?
If we want to step out of National 1, I know we like talking about National 1, Mark, but into kind of National 2, a couple of really interesting results towards the bottom of National 2 North. Probably one of the clubhouses we have been to, Mark, Harrogate, when right. Said you were in National 2. But yeah, they got a really important result against Fylde at home, won 27-24, which is kind of giving them a bit of a boost in the fight to stay in the league, because I don't know if you know, and I'm not sure it's public knowledge yet, but kind of the situation that's happening with the Championship means only 5 teams go down from National 2 this year rather than 6. So that right. Team who finished 13th with the best playing record or the most points will stay in the league for another year, and Harrogate's win at the weekend puts them in that position. So a really important win for Harrogate. And then there was another great win for Otley as well. They beat Lim, who we know, I think we talked about on the previous show. They were high-flying Lim in 3rd position, but Otley with a really important win in National 2 North in that one. And similarly with Worthing, Mark, in National 2 East, they struggling for results, really struggling to get wins, but in a similar situation to Harrogate, they got a really important win at home against Bury St Edmunds. I think it's 38-35 in the end. So those teams going into this, as we like to call it, the run into the season, are really wanting to get results, and some of those teams towards the bottom of those divisions have given themselves a bit of a platform to work with, if you like, Mark. So they were kind of the sort of 3 real standout results for me across National 2 towards the bottom of the table. And of course, Leeds Titans versus Sheffield at the top of National 2 North was the headliner at the start of the week, with Leeds Titans coming out on top of that one. So they now have a 4-point gap at the top of National 2 North.
Yeah, just 2 things I picked up. There was Mark Ireland at Sheffield Tigers doing his 200th appearance. Him and Jamie Broadley always impressed the heck out of me when I saw them up on Dormoor. So shout out to him on a 200th appearance. Absolutely. And the other one was, I never can get my head around this, was in National 2 West, Clifton of Bristol playing Macclesfield of South Manchester. And I only saw Twitter comments, but it looked like one heck of a game. And, you know, for a team at the top versus a team at the bottom, it didn't seem that one-sided.
No, like, you know, I know that the guys at Clifton do a fantastic job of covering the game, and as you say, Mark, on Twitter, and they kind of blow by blow account of what's happening. And I think there was one tweet that stood out to me that was saying, "Look, this isn't, you know, this is not what we expected. This isn't the script going to 13th place Macclesfield against, you know, as you say, a Clifton side fighting for the league title, Mark." So, yeah, no, Mac have been very, very good at home. It's just down the road from me, and we went to see them at the end of September, and they were like, "Look, the situation isn't ideal playing teams from Bristol and going down to Cambourne at 4 a.m. in the morning or whatever it was," but they're embracing it. And especially when they play in Cheshire, it's something they're going, "Well, no, this is our place. We're going to show you what we're all about if you've never been here before." And they picked up the majority of the points at home. They did obviously get the losing bonus point in the end, I think it was, Mark, and they've got a big game on Saturday at home against Exeter University. And if they win that, they go out at the bottom two, which is absolutely crucial for Macclesfield. But yeah, it was a much closer game that I think most people imagined, especially those of a Clifton persuasion as well. But yeah, good point you made there.
Yeah, no, and look, I think that was the weekend. The previous Wednesday, so what would that have been? The 12th of February.
Yeah,
it was the BUCS Super Rugby, and I again not fortunate enough to get to a live game, but I would always encourage people to go to these uni rugby games on a Wednesday. They're great fun and good quality rugby. And you can see from some of the tweets that Simon Cruz puts out about how many BUCS Super Rugby players are now in the England A team. It's fantastic.
Yeah. We I think when we went to that Worcester game, Mark, we talked about when the finals were at Worcester the other year. Simon was there actually. His knowledge is absolutely incredible about Super Rugby. You know, the amount of, as you say, the amount of players he can reel off who have played, you know, in the Premiership, who are now playing for England A, who are playing in the United Rugby Championship, in the Six Nations. There's so many players, aren't there, Mark, that we kind of follow the journeys of, who are now really taking that massive step in the big time. So you're absolutely right. You know, you could be going down to a Loughborough or Bath or Cardiff on a Wednesday thinking you're just watching university rugby, but these guys can be the future stars of the game.
Yeah, and it was good to see Bath Uni 36, Leeds Beckett 10, Durham 24, Exeter 17. Some good games and competitive games. I wouldn't say when I looked at the scoreboard, any one of those looked one-sided. And that's always good because, as you said, I think last week, uni rugby can sometimes be very cyclical. And the results are a lot closer. So I think credit to men's BUCS Super Rugby. Mouthful, but credit to them all. And I think if you then sort of turn to people that we've watched in uni rugby, the first one that came to my mind was Rory McConaughey, who wasn't at Bath Uni, but is now playing at Bath and played in the Premiership Rugby Cup over the weekend and scored a try in a losing game against Bristol.
Yeah. I saw he was back in the Premiership the other week, and it felt like it'd been a long while since we'd seen his name on a team sheet, Mark, didn't it?
Yeah, he's such a cracking bloke. He really is a superb guy. I've got so much time for him. Playing sevens with Red Panda at Kinsale, playing sevens. He was, you know, did he get a gold medal or a silver medal playing for GB Sevens?
I think it was silver.
I can't remember.
It might have been the year Fiji were just incredible and were dominating with Ben Ryan. So I think it might have been either silver or bronze, but he definitely medalled, I think.
Yeah. So Rudy, if you're watching, do let us know what medal you got.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Chris will research it in the meantime, so don't worry.
I should know. I've interviewed him a couple of times at CRU. I should know that, Mark.
Yeah. So the other game that sort of I think it was on TV was the Harlequins Saracens game that was a very close affair. And interestingly, Alex Dombrandt appeared in the centres. And no sooner had he done that, he got selected for the England squad. Now, what's going on, Mr. Borthwick? I don't get this. Got any thoughts?
He must think, I mean, it looked like, I only caught the first 30 minutes of it really, Mark, but it looked like, I think it was, I can't remember who was on commentary for the game on TNT Sports, but it was, I think it might have been Chris Ashton actually, and he was saying, goodness me, Alex Dombrandt's got a point to prove, hasn't he? He was just charging around, like, you know, didn't care for anybody else's safety. He was just running over players, wasn't he? And you know, we know how stacked England's back row is, don't we? They've got so much talent in there at the moment. You know, Tom Willis, the Curry brothers have been excellent in the first two games. That, you know, even when they started or come off the bench. Ben Earl obviously is in there as well. So there's so much talent in there. And Steve Borthwick might have watched that and go, there's going to be a use for Alex Dombrandt here. There's got to be a use. And, you know, obviously we've got Ollie Lawrence in the centres, haven't we? But is there anybody else who can carry the ball as ferociously as what we saw by Dombrandt at the weekend? I know, you know, playing in centre isn't his natural position, but he was just charging over players. So I don't know. Maybe we could see it. You know, if we are in a healthy lead against Scotland on Saturday, which it's very unlikely. But if we're in the dream scenario, maybe it's 20 minutes for Dombrandt in the centres. Who knows?
Do you think he'll get into the 23? Do you?
Probably not. I think once now Steve's got a team that's won. I mean, I think the team got announced this afternoon, and obviously he's stuck with Finn Smith at 10, Marcus at 15. So I think because he's got a team that's won and he's got a winning formula, I think he'd be reluctant to change that.
And you're down at Penny Hill this week for a mooch around and a bit of inquisition.
I am just to confirm he isn't in the squad. Isn't in the 23 mark. It broke just before we came on air actually. In terms of the team, no, he's not. He unfortunately will not be seeing him come off the bench and tear up trees, unfortunately. So, but I am going back to your point, Mark. Yeah, you know, I'm going down on Thursday. So whenever this goes out, it might be before or after. And down to Penny Hill. It's nice because it isn't kind of a fully fledged National League Rugby week this week. There's only 8 games with a bit of reserve weekend, so it gives me a little bit more wiggle room to go down to these events, get back in the mix with the other journos, and hopefully the fingers crossed, touching wood, not getting ahead of ourselves. We might be speaking tomorrow. I told you about the stuff we talked up right at the start of the show, National League Rugby. So if we can get the England captain talking as passionately as we are, Mark, about National League Rugby, we're doing something right. So always good to get back in the mix. The guys at England Rugby have been really helpful. So we'll see how it goes.
And I mean, Alex Dombrandt, did he play at Cardiff Met in BUCS Super Rugby?
He did. Yeah, he played in one of the finals that we were, I think maybe the last one at Twickenham that we were at in the losing final. Thinking that was when Hartbury were all conquering Hartbury still. Alex was in that team with Luke Northmore. He was obviously at Quins as well. So we saw him there at Twickenham a few years ago. But yeah, you know, it was amazing to see him made 150 appearances for Quins, wasn't it, the weekend, Mark? You know, it only seems like yesterday we were always jumping in the back of Max's car and heading down to Twickenham for a long day out. So absolutely sensational achievement from Alex, and I'm sure he'll be chomping at a bit to try and work his way back into the 23 of the England squad before the end of the Six Nations.
Well, Alex, if you're watching, Chris is at Penny Hill on Thursday. Give him 10 minutes of your time and just do some recollections of uni rugby. We're very, very interested to hear from you, Alex. Come on, no excuses. And so Premiership Rugby Cup, it hits quarterfinals. The top seeds are Newcastle Falcons, and they're going to host Gloucester. Leicester have got Ealing Trailfinders from the Championship.
Yeah.
Bristol versus Sale is always a good affair. And hopefully Saracens Doncaster will be a chance for the guys at Doncaster to get involved.
Really interesting around Doncaster, isn't it? I know they've not had the season they probably wanted in the Championship, but they're making a good fist of it in the Premiership Cup. It was interesting. I know I always go back to National League Rugby, Mark, and I really do apologise for it, but it was interesting to see at the weekend that there was a sense of Sam Wadsworth, who's been at Lim this season, who's actually on loan from Lim at Doncaster for the Premiership Cup games, and he got himself a try as well, which was quite interesting to see. So,
Right.
yeah, no, I think Doncaster are really going to give it a fist, and I think they are, one of the teams that do kind of have aspirations and maybe taking the step if that step was allowed for them to be taken. And if they're able to put up a good showing and a good fight against the Saracens team that kind of used the Prem Cup as a development tool this year, we saw some quite strong sides at the weekend, didn't we? The Harlequins been one of them actually, and I think Bristol played a pretty strong team against Bath. But if Saracens do continue to use it as a bit of a development tool, then Doncaster will just go in there, with nothing to lose effectively, and give it the best shot.
Well, I think the quarters are at the end of February, so you and I can do a quick review on one of our In the Clubhouses. But this is the end of our In the Clubhouse for this week, and massive thanks to Talking Rugby Union, massive thanks to National League Rugby Review Show, and for all of the folk that are subscribing, listening, liking, commenting. We do thank you, and we do hope that you enjoy In the Clubhouse with me, Seniormash, and
me, Chris Hill. Is that my? I'm just gonna follow that intro. It sounded too professional, Mark. So I'll go with me, Chris Hill, for now.
excellent. Good to see you all, and see you all soon.
With thanks to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Guinness Six Nations for their incredible content and the content of their subscribers. Without you all, this wouldn't be possible. Thanks, and for now, that's been In the Clubhouse with Chris Hill and Seniormash. Session number 2, over and out.